Back in 2019, Amanda Ribas boxed up Mackenzie Dern en route to a dominant 3-round decision. 5 years later, the Brazilian strawweights are matched up again, this time 5-round main event to determine who's going to move up the top 10 in the strawweight ladder. We're breaking that down along with the rest of the UFC Vegas 101 card. Baby, fights are back, let's get it. We're going to break down prop locks, sleepers, and much more in today's episode. My name is Derick G, welcoming me, as always, the Santa Fe Bomber, the New Mexico native. AJ, what's the word, brother?
The word is violence, brother. Violence has made its way back into 2025.
You said you were coming for vengeance this year. Now, really quickly, before we jump into things, give the people a quick recap. What do we do this time of year?
Clean slate, folks. It's the start of the year. If you've been paying attention for the last 4 years, you know Derick and I are going head to head against, battling against each other for one of these shiny gold belts we have. You can see Derick. He has 2 up right now, but he's actually got 3. I don't know why he's hiding the 3rd one, but either way, I'm coming for that title, folks. And the main point of it, we're bringing you money week in and week out. The best place to get it done is right here at the Bloody Water Podcast.
AJ, I only got so much shelf space, brother. You know what I mean? You got so much gold, we got to tuck it away. I'm gonna have to get another camera angle to just display the gold at all times. But let's not mince any more words. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do it now. But AJ, we don't have any fights to recap, right? Because this is the start of a fresh year. So let's just jump into the UFC Vegas 101 bet sheet. All right, my friend, let's start off with the picks. We got 6 fights on deck for UFC Vegas 101. Consensus picks are as follows: Amanda Ribas, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Cesar Almeida, Roman Kopylov, and the newcomer, Austin Bashi, minus 270 favorite over a dog in C-Rod. We're going to talk about it, folks. AJ, what does that mean? That means that there's just a little bit of contentious picks. You got one in our Punahele Soriano versus Uros Medic matchup. Talk to me about the contentious pick right there.
The contentious pick, Derick. I mean, it's a very, very close one with a talented Uros Medic and a well-rounded. I mean, we can't knock Soriano anymore, Derick. It's going to be a very interesting way to see how these two actually get it done.
Now it seems like a wrestler versus a striker, but again, we'll dive into that in just one moment. Folks, we got something for you. Prop locks, bringing it back as always, and we're tracking it from the start of the year to the end of the year, bringing you nothing but accuracy. AJ, you up first, brother. What is your first prop lock of 2025 UFC Vegas 101?
First prop lock, Derick, we're going Iho Porteria versus Marco Tulio, right? And if you heard I'm sure you're familiar with Porteria, right? He's talented, he's technical, he's very, very dangerous. I see him approaching this fight a lot like the Brishek fight. And then Tulio, he's a UFC newcomer, folks, but man, this guy has some pop in his hands all day long. Going to be providing a very interesting matchup for Porteria, being how fast and powerful Tulio is. This one with a combination of veteranship and then the power of Tulio, expect this one to be looking a little bit distant, right? Start the fight slow, minus 129. Even the odds makers are a little confused on how this was going, but you can cash in right here at over 1.5.
That's fair. And listen, folks, you're going to hear a lot of names you might not have heard before. Dana White Contender Series making their UFC debuts. That's happening a lot on this card, so we will break it down. That's your first prop lock. I got a prop lock for you, people. I'm looking to start on a hot streak, baby. Let's go. We're talking about Preston Parsons' short notice bout against Jacoby Smith right here. Over 1.5 rounds at minus 155. That's the play, and that's what we're going to be aiming for right here. Is we need extension. Jacoby Smith is a buzzsaw. He comes down and he tries to get the fight over with immediately, but I'm banking on the tenacity of Preston Parsons to extend that fight a little bit. Minus 155. If you look at the entire slate, the entire docket, that is a reasonable price to pay. So that's what we're going to be rolling with. Cash it in, baby, and comment down below when we hit for you, because you know that's the deal.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
We're jumping into the main card, baby. Let's get it. All right, AJ, we're going to start off with the main event. Amanda Ribas, Mackenzie Dern, or should I say Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Ribas, number 2, since Dern is the A side. But again, 5 years ago, man, Amanda Ribas, she showed us that there's levels to this game, and you got to be more than just a grappler, because Ribas can grapple too. Mackenzie Dern, plus 180 dog, minus 210 favorite is Amanda Ribas. Do you like the line coming into this for this first main event?
I do, Derick. I mean, especially with how we've seen Mackenzie Dern kind of have a roller coaster of fight styles, right? She started off a grappler, needs to improve the striking heavy, kind of lost a little bit with the new age of the UFC that's kind of gaining ground on how talented Mackenzie Dern is as a grappler. It lends a lot to why Amanda Ribas, with how she's able to roll into every single fight, take the fight anywhere, and especially with her winning the last one, I see Amanda Ribas being the favorite in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think she should be a clear favorite. You look at the fight that happened the first go around and you say, what exactly has changed? changed. And if you're looking at Mackenzie Dern, you could say she's gotten more aggressive, but she's also been kind of juggling different camps and different coaches and different training styles and things of that nature. So there's only one thing that I think she needs to hone in on, and I'm not sure if she's actually worked on it, AJ. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, it's not your ability to grapple when the fight gets to the ground, but it's getting the fight to the ground. It's the specific wrestling. Now, I'm not sure, and I'm not convinced today, the performance that we saw against Amanda Lemos, the performance that we saw against Luby Godinez, I'm not convinced that she's going to be able to just go and take down Amanda Ribas and have her way with her. If this fight is standing, I think Ribas is going to be able to trade, be a little bit more, have more volume, and I think the stinging shots are probably going to come from Mackenzie Dern. So Dern's going to have to be banking on a knockdown, some major damage to steal rounds in order to win a decision here. I think both of the ladies have an opportunity to find a finish, but for Dern, I really do think it has to come in the grappling department.
I think the one way that I can see Mackenzie Dern, especially with what we've seen with her recently in her fights, she has this blitz where she almost just puts her heads down and just starts swinging in a straight line. If she can do that, but halfway stop and redirect her angle to where the girl has already evaded her, I can see her pressuring Amanda Ribas up against the fence, getting this fight down and dirty, and then being able to work a takedown there, whether it's a knockdown or even a leg drag, whatever the case, because you're right, we haven't seen Mackenzie Dern add that style of wrestling into her acumen yet to where I feel confident that she could, because you're right, Amanda Ribas is going to be sitting there, putting the volume down, putting the pressure down, and throwing the slick combos that she does, and if Mackenzie Dern isn't able to find the holes in those combos, it's going to be very difficult for her to get this fight down.
Well, what are you banking on right here? Are you banking on a finish or are you banking on a decision? Because we're here to make money, right? And the first thing that we got to consider is the over. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, man. But minus 200 for over 4.5, plus 160 for the under 4.5 rounds right there. Are you smashing that over? I mean, minus 200 is not it's not as crazy of a line as I would have imagined for this style of fight.
Yeah, absolutely, Derick. I'm still smashing it as far as the over on this one. I mean, if you're looking at how fights go with, especially in the women's fight or women's divisions, and then how talented both of these fighters are, I could see this one gaining further distance, and then how tired both fighters get in after, the third and fourth round. 4.5 rounds. Excuse me, 4.5 rounds makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you. Minus 200, I expected about a 3 or a 4, but I like to see this odds for sure.
Ribas is one of a couple different fighters right here who has minus odds for a decision victory. Now, when it comes down to a pure decision victory, I can totally see how Amanda Ribas is like the pure play right here. Again, Mackenzie Dern, I think she has to do something spectacular. She has to really make her mark felt in order for the money to kind of make sense right here. But you're not dipping into that plus 400 submission prop on the Mackenzie Dern side?
I'm not, Derick. I'm not, specifically for the reasons that Amanda Ribas is very talented on the ground, and I don't see her staying in the positions long enough that are going to be dangerous enough to have Mackenzie Dern get a submission.
But if she does get there, right, I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a moment. Because, again, I agree. This is a consensus pick. I think Amanda Ribas is the play. Better striker. Holds her own on the ground enough. A legit black belt that can say, like, hey, I can at least get out of this danger to get the fight back up to the feet. But Mackenzie Dern, we have seen when she goes head down, bull rush like that, and she goes and finds somehow to clinch you up, and maybe I don't know. But then Amanda Ribas is a black belt in judo too, I believe. I was going to say Mackenzie Dern maybe use a little bit of judo, try to get the fight to the ground. But I can see real fight-ending sequences happening from Mackenzie Dern that happen really quickly. And that's going to be the kind of narrative of a lot of these different matchups right here. Again, you're not going to bet on a long shot, but no value there.
For the submission, for the plus 400 submission?
On Mackenzie Dern, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely value there. I mean, I think it's way more valuable than the plus 700 TKO prop that she's working with, which admittedly, I can see why she has a better TKO prop than Amanda Ribas, because Mackenzie Dern, if she is able to put the power into place, put the kinetics into place, she can do some serious damage with that, but I like the submission better for sure.
I'm actually a little surprised you say that, because Mackenzie Dern has been open. She's been openly saying that she needs to go less from a jiu-jitsu approach where she gets the fight to the ground and is just chasing a sub to just ground and pound and smash the fighter and get him out of there. So I actually think there is, like I said, I think there's credence across the board right here. But again, when it comes down to a money-making perspective, unless Mackenzie Dern can do something spectacular and Amanda Ribas just doesn't get in her own way, just pop the jab, keep moving laterally, and don't get taken down. I think the minus 140 decision is going to be the best play across the board right here. So just to make sure that I'm 100% here, because there's slight difference in value, but value is the same, you're taking a minus 140 Amanda Ribas decision play over her minus 210 line?
Yes, absolutely, Derick, because I think the decision is the most likely outcome, and with how talented both fighters are, I don't see a finish happening right here.
Consensus pick, you heard it here first, folks. That is your first main event of 2025. But we got a banging card in deck, and the undercard is something that you guys definitely need to keep an eye on. So, next up, the Argentine dagger, Santiago Ponzinibbio versus the man from Guyana, Carlston Harris. Man, this is a really interesting matchup because to me, these are two completely separate approaches of martial arts right here, of mixed martial arts, that are going to clash and collide in a matchup that could either have a very quick finish or can be a long, drawn-out 3-round war, man. So let's start with the Ponzinibbio side of things. He opens up as a dog, which was a little surprising, plus 100 dog, minus 120 favorite for Carlston Harris, though he's way more experienced, has a lot more wins. I mean, they're the same size on the feet. I think he'll give Carlston Harris a way harder challenge. It's just if Carlston Harris can get the fight to the ground, things might get a little sticky right there. So what are your thoughts?
I was interested to see why a lot of people are banking on Ponzinibbio being the underdog on this fight, Derick, because with the power and the pressure that Ponzinibbio presents, he's a very, very dangerous downhill fighter, right? I mean, he does slow down halfway through the fight, which is where I can see Carlston Harris having his greatest advantage. But with how long and rangy Carlston Harris is, but not necessarily destructive on the feet. He has power, he has ways to get it done, but he's a lot more talented on the ground. That's where he's able to get some work in. I see Ponzinibbio going inside and then dipping out, cutting corners, and continuously putting the pressure on Carlston Harris.
You know, I'm going to push back on that, though. I think Harris is actually really dangerous on the feet. I just think that he's more of a, in a weird way, a sharpshooter, even though it doesn't feel sharp when you watch it. Like, it feels clunky. It just feels like mallets raining down on you. But when he hits, like, it's thudding shots, right? He just hits at a lower clip than Ponzinibbio, who will sit down on the shots. He'll get and box in the pocket with you. And I think it's that constant volume approach from Santiago Ponzinibbio that overwhelms people. If you're looking at if you're looking at the numbers right here, you're clearly seeing it's all Carlston Harris when it comes down to grappling, right? Ponzinibbio is just going to try to keep the fight off of the ground. If you're looking for a size advantage, these guys are on paper, they're the same size, but you have to admit, Harris probably is going to have a pretty sizable advantage right there, right?
Absolutely, Derick. When you look at Carlston Harris, you instantly think long and rangy. You're not thinking the same thing with Ponzinibbio. He's a little more stocky, a little bit bigger of a build, but Harris, he has the ability to keep things at distance, which I think might give Ponzinibbio a lot of trouble.
So it does make sense now that I'm looking at my sheet right here, though. Ponzinibbio 1-4 in your last 5. Like, that's not good, man. That's not good momentum going into this matchup. 3-2 on the other hand for Carlston Harris. And if you even look at a couple of those fights, man, it's fights that Harris wasn't really winning, but he was able to just snatch up something quick from a submission perspective and able to just kind of wrap it up super quick. So I do think that there is going to be finishing danger here, which is why we got to dive into the numbers again. 2.5 rounds is the over, minus 130 for the over, plus 100 seems to be slightly lucrative for a fight that really could be under 2.5. What do you think?
Especially for under 2.5, Derick. Only, 2.5 minutes left in the entire fight. Mm-hmm. And with how Carlston Harris is able to finish a lot of his fights, I mean, but take out the Chaos Williams knockout, right? But you look at all the other ones, he is finding ways to be able to make things move. And with the power that Ponzinibbio presents, man, I'm telling you, like, if he's able to walk down and be the hammer that Ponzinibbio is, we could see an early night right here.
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad you say that. And this isn't the double down and let me just agree with everything you say show. But I really do think, I was like, Ponzinibbio could break him. He could break him, beat up the body a little bit, beat up the head. And we could see a finish here on the side of Ponzinibbio. So when we're looking at the numbers, man, it's kind of interesting to me that the TKO prop plus 235 and the decision prop plus 250, you're seeing one a little bit higher than the other. And I mean, listen, man, these are just odds, right? But that strikes me as the odds. We're all in consensus here. Why is the line what it is then? When you see something line up like that and the logic is all clicking, but then you look at the line and you're like, but he's still a dog. How does this make sense? Do you have any reasoning, or are we just reading in between the lines, if you will?
I think what it is, folks, is there might be a lot of, and I don't want to, if you're watching this show, I know you're not one of these guys, but if you do know one of them, go put them on to some game right here. But I'm sure there's a lot of money just coming into Carlston Harris off of other bettors, just being on how things have gone lately. I mean, if you look at him on paper, you're going to think this guy's going to be a killer, going to be able to get things done. And with how bad Ponzinibbio has done in his last 5, I think there's a lot of emphasis going that way.
Yeah, fair weather fans. I totally understand. But Ponzinibbio, 66% takedown defense. Bad news, 29% takedown accuracy on the side of Carlston Harris. So if this is a purely on the feet type fight, I love Ponzinibbio in this spot. Think it could definitely be a close fight. Watch out for the Carlston Harris grappling. Dude he's a stud, man. He's very good. But it is clear the Argentine dagger, Santiago Ponzinibbio, is your play. The final touch though, AJ, talk to the people. Are we just going money line or do you got a prop for him?
Ooh, Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think you take him at that money line, that plus 100 as a dog. I can see a KO. I can see a decision. That's why the odds makers have it so close right there. But the best money, plus 100 money line.
Dog play consensus pick. You got to love it, folks. Cash that one on in. All right, man. Things are starting to heat up now. Cesar Almeida versus Abdul Razak Alhassan. Judo Thunder, baby. Let's go. Hey, this is a really interesting matchup because if you're looking on the side of Alhassan, right? Last fight, which come on, bro. Should have been a win. Cody Brundage, elbows, but then it was like to the back of the head and I can't compete. And listen, I'm not going to say that does not impact you and all that. We have rules for a reason, but he looked good. And you got to be mad because if you look at the last five for him, man, win against Alicio de Chirico, what happened to him? Lost to Joaquin Buckley, win against Ribeiro, no longer in the UFC, lost to Joe Pyfer, and then no contest. He just can't get the momentum going. And the hardest problem here, man, he's like 39 years old, so time is definitely not where you want it to be for him. Cesar Almeida, who feels like he's a million years old, the man is only like 34 or something like that, 35, 37. He's younger. That's the point. And I think that his young MMA experience is just going to keep developing, similarly to an Alex Pereira. Obviously, both have the kickboxing background, but the story is very simple. If you're Cesar Almeida, people are trying to do one thing to you, and they're trying to take you down. AJ, the reality is, Razak Alhassan, he can do it, bro. Pure muscle, pure tenacity. He could pick him up and he could drop him. But Almeida has surprisingly shown like really good get-ups. So my question to you, man, how many takedowns does it take for us to be like, dang, we should have bet the house on Alhassan because once he gets him down, ground and pound smash. How many takedowns will it take in a fight for you to make that kind of conclusion? Otherwise, I think if Almeida gets back up, it's over.
I would say 3, Derick. If Alhassan can get the 3, especially if they're clean, I might even go 2, right? Like if he's hitting blast doubles and just powering people into the fence and slamming them down, like then all my mind's changing. That's why one of the things that lets me down with the Cody Brundage fight, I wanted to see how Alhassan was able to either stop the takedowns from coming from Brundage or get one of his own and see that evolution that we're wanting Alhassan to be. Now, if he can do that, that'd be impressive. I'm not sure if that's going to be the best case if Almeida isn't able to get up.
Yeah, I mean, if they do get up though, right? Almeida's a higher output striker, but Alhassan can end it in one shot. I think it should be fair to say that Almeida can do the same, but with Alhassan, like literally just one overhand, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? This is what he does. He's live by the knockout, die by the knockout type of guy. Everything else though, man, if you're looking at the takedown attempts, less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes, and he has a 38% accuracy. So you can't be asking for things that fighters don't do, right? You'd be like, hey, this is the prime example. Every time, recently, right, over the last couple of fights for Justin Gaethje, would be like, but he got that wrestling in his back pocket that he never uses, and he never uses it, so it's not even a factor. Let's not even think about it, right? If Alhassan does keep this fight standing, again, I don't want to be a broken record right here, but what are the odds that you're giving it, man? In a pure kickboxing matchup right here, is this a landslide favorite for Cesar Almeida, or are you seeing some value here in Abdul Razak Alhassan?
No, I'm seeing some value right here, Derick, especially with the durability Alhassan presents. We've seen him in some real compromising situations, and the guy, man, he's a monster of a man. So like Alhassan is very, very durable and has a very fundamental approach to how he does things. So if he's able to lean in that fundamentalism and not get just overwhelmed and just confused by what Almeida's doing, I think he has a good shot here. I'm looking to say like a 35%, which is unfortunate because I do see if he's able to get it to the ground, that increases so exponentially.
I don't want to talk crazy right here, man, but if you look at the average fight time for Alhassan, man, it's like 6 minutes. And for Cesar Almeida, in his short career in the UFC, about 13 minutes, almost going the distance right here. When we're looking at the odds right here, plus 130 TKO prop for Cesar Almeida, but I'm kind of liking that plus 210 decision for Cesar Almeida. I give respect to Judo Thunder, man. I don't think that he's going to give this one up easy. I think you got to get him out there to get him out, if that makes sense. And the over kind of aligns with that. 1.5 rounds is simply the over minus 170, which I think you smash all day long. What do you think?
Yeah, smash all day long, Derick. I was looking at this one, especially at a 1.5 with how these guys are performing all day long. Minus 170, it makes money. And folks, get on that now because that line is growing. It used to be 150, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of money coming in on that one.
And think about it from this too, man. If Alhassan spends the first round just trying to get Almeida down and it's get up and down and up and down, I love the odds even better. So I agree. That should be that consensus. Smash the over 1.5 on this one for sure. Not just a consensus lock on Cesar Almeida, but also on that over to entice people anymore, or to entice the viewers right here. Cesar Almeida though, like, let me ask you, minus 300. Did you look at that line and be like, wow? Like, they are giving my man respect right here. Like, I thought it was a little staggering of a number, and that is not something that I pay. I'm just pure minus 300. I don't pay that. What do you think?
I don't pay that at all, Derick. I honestly expected him to be the favorite, but at like a minus 150, right? And maybe it's because we do give a lot of love to Alhassan, right? I can see how he gets things done. I'm curious how Almeida is going to be handling the power that comes back. And if minus 300, I don't know if we're going to be seeing, well, I guess it depends on how this fight goes. But if it doesn't go well, I don't think we're going to be seeing Cesar Almeida at that kind of points again for a while.
Yeah, that's kind of my point, right? Is that you have to do something spectacular to merit that this early in your career. And Alhassan is a legitimate bona fide veteran that I think will probably make this look a lot closer than people will think. So interesting matchup right there. But the pick is Cesar Almeida. All right, next up.
Ready for Saturday night? Get expert breakdowns, betting tips, and exclusive bonus plays straight from the pros, Derick and AJ. Join the Bloody Water Podcast community of MMA enthusiasts on YouTube, where stats meet strategy, and fans like you win big. Being in the know means making fights more enjoyable for you and your friends. By hyping up the big moments and confidently calling outcomes, you'll be the MVP of Fight Night. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and rate us 5 stars if you listen on audio.
AJ, Chris Curtis, Roman Kopylov. This is the people's main event to a degree, right? Like, this is the matchup that you're looking for because you have a very high class technical boxer in Chris Curtis, who, albeit, is coming off of that hamstring injury that he had in what was the fight against? It was against Brendan Allen, right? The last one where in the end of the fight, he just jacked up his hamstring pretty bad. Then you got Roman Kopylov, man, who was on a major tear at one point. He had stuffed like 30 plus consecutive takedown attempts and nobody was touching him. Enter our friend Fluffy Hernandez, right? He came down, he showed us what the blueprint is. AJ, Chris Curtis doesn't wrestle, so we don't have any of that to worry about. This is a pure kickboxing matchup. But before we jump into that, you heard about the story where Chris Curtis was alleging that Roman Kopylov had sent spies into his camp at Extreme Couture to spy on him? It was just some like random Russian guys or whatnot. Ended up not being true, and he had to apologize to Kopylov, and he was like, bro, this dude is sending spies. It's beef. How is this played into that? Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about it, Derick, but I wish I did, man. That's awesome. I guess you can never be too prepared, and in 2025, you can never be too worried that there's spies around. Just maybe don't blame it on a race, so or I guess a country in that case.
Something like that, man. But the point is, right? If you're not paranoid, you're not fully prepared, right? So, like, I like where your head is, Chris Curtis, but the question is going to become this, man. Being as technical as he is as a pure boxer, I not say pure boxer because he doesn't throw a lot of kicks, right? He has to find a way to shut down the body kicks from Roman Kopylov. He has to find a way to not allow Roman Kopylov to stay at distance, because the one thing that it's the bane of my existence betting on Chris Curtis is that sometimes it feels like he just takes a little too long to find the perfect shots before he starts opening up. But he's accurate and he lands. Does that approach work against a Roman Kopylov, or does he have no time to waste? 15 minutes.
I don't think he has time to waste, Derick, especially with how Roman Kopylov has been fighting lately. He gets having that snowball effect, man. He turns it on, and when he sees moments, he strikes, especially like you're saying with the body kicks. Like, he does some work. And if Chris Curtis isn't able to get on the inside, put some pressure on him, control how the distance is actually being done, then he's going to have a hard time. And hopefully Chris Curtis proves us wrong again, because we've said it before. There's sometimes it just seems like it's not his moment in this one. This seems like one of those fights where it's not necessarily a big name, as much as we love Roman Kopylov, not the biggest name, but enough of a proving ground in what MMA is to be able to get him back on track to where Chris Curtis was.
I guess you're right. At first, I was a little taken back, but if you look at the last 5, Joaquin Buckley, Kelvin Gastelum, Imavov, Marc-Andre Barriol, and then Brendan Allen. And then you get Roman Kopylov, which is kind of no-name-ish, but the toughest part about it, you get the no-name guy that has arguably more skill than the rest of them. You know what I mean? So that's going to be, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Now, this is the other factor, right? Chris Curtis is very high volume. Like once he gets going, man, he does land. The number is almost 6 significant strikes landed per minute, but he gets hit almost 6 times per minute as well with significant strikes landed. In a trade of blows right here, where these dudes are kickboxing and they're ready to give it full tilt, man. Let's talk about the numbers. 2.5 rounds is the over, and minus 220 is the odds for the over right there. You're not seeing an under happening on this one?
Not really, Derick. I was actually looking at this one, and it being 2.5 does make me think the under might happen, but with how durable, it's hard to say durable for Chris Curtis because of how his last fight went. But again, that wasn't necessarily him getting starched, right? It's an injury. Things happen. Like this guy can stand in the pocket. He's down to trade. He has good head movement. Sometimes he takes some pictures so he can get caught. And I think that's where Roman Kopylov is able to have a good feed back and forth. And if with Chris Curtis able to put pressure, or if Roman Kopylov just has his way, 2.5 rounds, that's a long time for 2 very skilled fighters. So I can see the under. I'm not sold on it though.
Minus 140 is the decision prop for Roman Kopylov. Again, he's one of the couple different fighters who do hold a prop of that value. Fair or foul?
I think it's fair. I think it's fair, especially with how dangerous Chris Curtis is. I don't see Roman Kopylov wanting to get into the long duration exchanges, right? Not wanting to trade 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going back and forth. I see him working the kicks, working the distance, keeping the range motion, and get Chris Curtis tired by having him chase him.
Yeah, man. And I'm curious to see what stance Chris Curtis is going to hold, because Roman Kopylov is a southpaw, right? If Chris Curtis opens up an orthodox, the body kick is there all day. If you go southpaw, well, then you can kind of switch it up a little bit, right? And then you can kind of deter it a little bit. It'll be an interesting exchange right here. But for Chris Curtis, man, I don't think he's out of this fight. I think it's very strange for him to be a plus 220 dog right here. I'm not sure what the exact live odd is right now, but if you just look at his background, man, this dude is legit. I'm more curious than anything else is like, are you fully 100%? Are you 100% healed, man? You tore your hamstring like off the bone or something like that, and now X amount of months later, you're like, yep, I'm ready to get it against Roman. I don't know, man. This is my big picture question for you right here, though. I feel like a Chris Curtis win right here. This is a big win for him. To the people who are in the know. To the casuals, probably doesn't mean anything. But a Roman Kopylov win, AJ, over Chris Curtis. It's getting harder and harder to deny the man in his division right here. What else does he need to do at 185 pounds, bro, to get that warranted like top 5, top 10 type shot?
Oh, man, if you're Kopylov, I think you need a couple more decisive victories, right? Like if he's able to go in and just put a whoop into Chris Curtis, I don't think he's going to knock him out. I don't think that's going to be the case. But if he is, and then you get another knockout on your next opponent, I can see the UFC brass looking at Roman Kopylov and wanting to get him more shine going forward, top 5, top 10, right up in the mix.
I'll tell you what I want to see. I want to see Imavov versus Kopylov right there. That's a fight that I would like to see. But again, you got to earn the opportunity. Only way you can earn the opportunity is to get a couple big wins. Let's not forget, Imavov is slated to fight Israel Adesanya. So it's levels. Even Adesanya versus Kopylov, that would be a fun fight too. But levels to this. But AJ, to conclude us right here, the consensus pick once again right here, it will be Roman Kopylov. But the question is, are you betting minus 140 decision on this one? Minus 140
decision for Roman Kopylov. Yeah, actually, Derick. Yeah, I was looking at especially the minus 260 money line. I don't see it happening. The submissions, not at all. Minus 140 for Roman Kopylov decision makes all the sense.
All right, we're getting into interesting territory right here. I told you we were going to be talking about Dana White Contender Series alumni, and we got one right here. Christian C-Rod Rodriguez. Again, back at 145 pounds, but this time you're fighting the debutant fighter, Austin Bashi. Now, Bashi, if you take a look at him, I'm going to show a picture on the screen so y'all can see. He looks like a delightful young gentleman, young kid, right, who's out here just trying to live his best life. This man is mean in the cage. Mean man right here. Don't mess with this dude. Because you want to talk about grapplers, you want to talk about effective people, you're talking about Dana White Contender Series fight where the man had, 18 landed takedown average. Yeah, that was takedowns. Those real takedowns. 18? That's a lot, man. Rinse, wash, repeat. Up, down, up, down, up, down. The scariest part about Austin Bashi, if we're being real here, though, man, his finishing capacities are really scary, man. When he gets somebody's back, he's a finisher. Rear naked chokes all day long. The problem, though, C-Rod, he's the foil, right? He's the guy that you send these hyped up dudes to go and fight, and he sends them on their other way. But AJ, he did a lot of that at 135 pounds, and a couple times during that span, he didn't even make 135 pounds himself, right? So it was sanctioned cheating, if you will. Talk to me about this matchup. Talk to me about what kind of foil C-Rod can be against Bashi.
Well, this was going to be a fun one, Derick, because I feel like if Dana White could clone any fighter going forward, it would be Austin Bashi, right? He has the closest thing we've seen to what an American smash would be, right? Like the Dagestani smash, this boy brings that kind of volume, that kind of ferocity, that kind of power forward in an American style, right? Look, impressive wrestling, dude has crazy power, but you're right, man. C-Rod has all the tools to be able to go ahead and stop this or at least put a halt to what the Austin he was in his last fight. It was a rough one for him. The Julian Juicy J Arosa fight. He was looking good until the pressure of Arosa just took too much. I can see where things line up with the pressure that Bashi's going to be producing. I can see where that might be a deterrent or an exclamation for Bashi going forward in this fight. But with how C-Rod is able to find moments and do specific things to get, like, just elude, right? Cut corners, set out of the way, like, set up the traps that he's able to, especially with a young fighter. I can see C-Rod having moments in this fight. They're going to be either tide turners or just another nail in the coffin.
That's the thing, man. Like, Bashi, his physicality might shut a little bit of that down, right? Because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, C-Rod, man, there's two ways that I predict this fight basically playing out. Bashi finds the takedown, even if it takes him a couple. He just finds himself in a position where he's able to take the back, step over, hold control, and either win a boring fight with massive levels of control or find the submission. The other way is you gas out due to one of two things. You gas out due to failed takedown attempts because C-Rod's able to stuff him, or because C-Rod doesn't have the greatest takedown defense in the world. Gas out because you take him down, but he keeps scrambling, and now you're back up trying to take him back down and up and down. And I could tell you, man, I was training last night doing that. And I was like, this is terrible. I hate this. Cardio is worst. It's the worst thing in the world. And that's what these guys are facing day in and day out, especially with this specific kind of matchup. So this can be a pure smash American style for Austin Bashi, or this could be a y'all must have forgot C-Rod edition. I doubt the physicality. I don't know if there's a reason the man was having success at 135, and there's a reason he wanted to continue to fight at 135. It's because these 140 individuals. Now, AJ, Austin Bashi, minus 210, I believe was the open. I think he crept up as far as minus 270 at one point. Can you live check me right now?
Minus 265, Derick.
Minus 265. I read a stat, the other day, and forgive me because I'm going to butcher it, but the thesis of the stat, the ethos of it was more or less that I think about 43% of UFC debut fighters who are fighting a UFC veteran, 43% of them have actually won the fight, right? So under 50% right here. Austin Bashi might be an exception, right? But I just think historically, man, like that's a high price tag. So AJ, we know the methods, we know smash, go wrestle, go grapple. But are you paying minus 265? Are you paying even minus 210? Even if you could get that number, are you paying that for Austin Bashi against C-Rod? Or are you trying to play a different play to make money on the fight?
That's a good question, Derick, because the over personally at 2.5, I'm not necessarily sold. It's minus 240 for the over, plus 190 for the under on 2.5 rounds. So a little bit worse of an odds versus just taking Bashi at the minus 210 now or then. So I can see where it is. But Derick, if I'm looking, man, what I'm looking most for, and I hope it's not one of the boring hold him down and just sit there for 15 minutes fight, minus 140 decision. That seems to be what a lot of people are thinking going forward with how Bashi, if Chris C-Rod is able to mix up the hands and the feet and get things going and keep Bashi guessing, I could see a decision happening with how many takedowns are being had. But if Austin Bashi is able to finish this fight, Derick, I see that plus 600 submission all day long, right? Get him down, grapple him down, put the seatbelt on him, choke him out.
Yeah, I like that one too. Listen, my prediction for this one, I'm going Austin Bashi. That's the consensus pick right here, right? I don't want to bet him. I'm going to advise you guys, stay away from betting all of the normal things that you see here, the money line, even for the props. Just stick away from that. But if there is a bet, I would take Austin Bashi in the distance. Consensus pick, Austin Bashi, UFC debut against C-Rod. We'll see what 145 pounds looks like after this one. And then the opening bout of the main card. AJ, Puna, he's back. Puna Heli Soriano versus the Dr. Uros Medic. And this is a good fight. Now, this is a weird fight because this is 170 pounds. And for those who are uninitiated, Soriano, he fought at 185 pounds, had some success, had a couple drop backs, but then said, I'm going to move down and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrestle these boys. You know what I mean? They're not ready for this physicality, which is like right on, right? Uros Medic was fighting at 155 pounds. Has the big frame. He's a monster at that weight class, moved up to 170 pounds and still is huge for the weight class. So you have a really interesting move up and a move down to make the rightful weight class, if you will. I just think it comes down to fight style, right? Puna Heli Soriano put on a wrestling clinic against, Against Miguel Baeza, right? Fantastic. And we're like, yo, all right, Puna, this is how we getting down? Okay, you lost to Stoltzfus because he gassed out. You lost to Roman Kopylov. You lost to Nick Maximov with the crazy grappling right here. Let me go initiate some of that yourself, which is awesome. But 175 pounds, does he have the same ability to put on a grappling pace like Oralbai did, right, to Uros Medic? Does he have that ability and that cardio? Because if he doesn't, AJ, I'm going to say there's a bunch of red flags here and a bunch of question marks that are popping up for me. What do you think?
Absolutely, Derick. No, I'm with you. I do think the new version that Puna is, man, I think he has the gas tank. I think he has the acumen, the skills to be able to put on just a relentless approach. And he needs to. He needs to win this fight, Derick, because if you don't, Uros Medic, the doctor's going to pick you apart, man. He is very, very dangerous, real kick heavy. He can hurt you at distance. Like, he's slick all around. And as much as Puna is a good striker, right, he has power. He has dominance. He can put on people, pressure, right? But if that pressure falters, like how we've seen before, there is a problem. I don't see it happening with how much Puna's game has evolved.
It has evolved. But that evolution turned a little one-dimensional because he didn't really mix it up in terms of the striking and the grappling. He just went like pure grappling, which I was like, all right, cool, but like, will that work? Again, you took the words out of my mouth, right? If this fight goes back up to the ground, I think from a technical capacity standpoint, I think Medic is levels above striking-wise for where Puna is. Because you saw in that fight, even against, pull it up again, Dolston Stoltzfus, right? It was just like big overhand. And when it didn't happen, you were gassed out and you had nothing left, right? That's a recipe for disaster against Uros Medic. But again, when you watch Oralbai and you watch him just ragdoll Medic, who has like some pretty solid takedown defense, you saw non-stop grappling, like chain grappling over and over and over again. And maybe that is what they are practicing over there at Extreme Couture. Vegas scene is crazy when it comes down to what these dudes are able to do and the level of training partners that they have. But again, we're kind of banking on him being able to hold that up for 15 minutes, and I'm not super confident doing that. So this is one of our contentious picks right here. Puna did open plus 165 dog, minus 190 for Uros Medic, which I was a little surprised they gave him that respect. But is it interesting to you that the decision prop for both fighters is the same at plus 300?
It's interesting in the fact, Derick, that's actually what I was thinking, right? If this fight has completely two different ways it can go, but with the outcome still being the same for both fighters, right? If they have either guy has their night, I don't see them really getting the finish on each other. I don't see them getting the drop. Maybe we see a knockout for Medic, or maybe we see just a ground and pound finish for Soriano. But I think the most likely outcome is both of them control in what they're best at, and then ends up in a decision for either.
Yeah, and I would like that for sure, man. But it does make me wonder as well. For both sides of the coin right here, Puna gets on top of you. I think he could finish the fight. For sure. Medic, you start standing. Soriano gets tired, I think he can finish the fight. So this is one of those tough ones right here where if you're making the real play, I think this is the easiest play, one of the easiest plays that you can make too. 1.5 rounds is the over, minus 155 for the over, plus 125 for the under. That tells you what the odds makers are thinking, man. They're saying that, yo, this one might not even make it past 2. What is you playing? You're playing the over all day on that?
I am, Derick. I am playing the over all day on that. I think it's going to take enough time for both guys to really feel each other out, get the fight going, get it to where it wants to be. And if either is able to dominate the other, I do think it's going to be a longer fight getting that one to where they want it to be, right? If Medic is able to control the distance, range management, he might be piecing Puna up, but Puna's durable and able to handle that. Same thing on the Puna side, man. I don't see him just sitting there getting on top and beating up Uros Medic right off the bat.
Yeah, Medic can definitely hold his own to a degree in terms of get-ups, but you did see against, who did he fight? No, it was horrible. I'll just go back to the Orlball fight, man. There was a point right there where I was like, man, this dude is being pretty relentless getting up. And it was only a matter of time till Orlball just took that jaw and choked him, and it was a wrap, right? Everyone has a breaking point, and I do believe in Puna's grappling, and I think that this revamped version of him can be very dangerous, but you got to prove it. And this is a time where if you're a believer, if you're tailing AJ, you can make a grip load of cash right here. But if you're a wise bettor, we're going off of projections, we're going off of history, and I think the doctor is an underrated candidate, even being a favorite right here. So I'm rocking with the Dr. Uros Medic. That is a contentious pick, and that concludes the main card picks here for UFC Vegas 101. Oh my goodness, it feels good. But folks, we are not done. If you know what's next, then you know you got something good coming. We're going to do it a little bit differently. But AJ, it's time for some bonus plays, baby. Let's.
And now, the Bloody Water Podcast presents your Fight Night bonus plays.
All right, first up, we'll do this in reverse chronological order right here because it makes sense for the main event. Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Ribas, number 2. We spoke about it earlier, but over 4.5 rounds at -210. Reason and rationale, my friend.
Very likely. I mean, we talked about it before with how skilled each fighter is and well-rounded. I see this one taking a little bit longer to develop, taking things going. I mean, they went to a decision in their first fight, even though it was 3 rounds. I see possibly a decision happen again. Over 4.5 makes a lot of sense right here.
All right, next up, interesting play. Victoria Dudakova versus Fatima Klein. We haven't talked about it yet, but Fatima Klein is the biggest favorite on the card, open at -950. You're looking at the +625 dog, open at +650 dog to get the win over Fatima Klein, who was huge for her weight class. Talk to me.
Huge for a weight class, Derick, but what have we seen lately? Those massive favorites that kind of a lot of people don't really know end up faltering, man. And Victoria Dudakova right here is no slouch, right? Her opponent, Fatima Klein, very dangerous. But I didn't expect this big of a gap, right? When I saw how big the gap was in odds, I was like, man, even if you're throwing a flyer, even if you're throwing $5 on this one, Dudakova has the skill set. I mean, she's very Shevchenko-esque, right? Obviously, they're both Russian, but just in the style of how she fights, right? Solid, sturdy, goes for the takedowns, able to get things down. Man, Dudakova has power and precision. I don't think she's going to let down on this fight, man. This one's very interesting right here, Derick.
Fair play, folks. Tap in. You're going to get a final pick here in just one moment. We just spoke about this one. Puna Soriano versus Uros Medic. The doctor over 1.5 rounds. -150 was the more current odd that was placed right there. Still like the price right here. Folks, I'm going to go ahead and say cash that one. Just cash it because we like that one. But AJ, reason and rationale.
Absolutely, Derick. Yeah, I mean, we just said it, folks. Technical, Soriano, if he's able to get to work, whichever fighter is able to get to work is going to be the one who wins this one. Obviously, it sounds kind of dumb, but when they can stay in their lane and get things done, that's how this fight's going to go. But I see it happening after that 7.5-minute mark.
Perfect. And then the last one, Jose Johnson, man, the 6-foot flyweight versus Felipe Bunes. Under 2.5 rounds +110 for a flyweight fight. You got to love it. And let me just let you guys know, very slight discrepancy in the open, +115 at open, but now you got it at the +110. So the lines are creeping, which means you need to jump on these when we say them. So go ahead, AJ, reason and rationale.
Lines are creeping right here, Derick. You got Johnson, long, very dangerous striker. Bunes, man, very skilled submission threat right here. Fight has a lot of different ways at which it can end, and I don't see it ending long. I see this one ending early. 2.5 rounds, folks, for a flyweight fight with two very dangerous fighters at plus money. I mean, we know the unders haven't been hitting, but this one perked my interest to possibly be one that hits.
Listen, man, during 2024, a certain part of it, flyweight unders were back. They were so back. And the flyweight overs are something that you could generally always bank on. But listen, man, I think people are coming for violence. It's the first card of 2025. So, AJ, the arbiter of truth when it comes down to the bonus plays here on the Bloody Water Podcast, what is the official bonus play for UFC Vegas 101?
Bonus play right here, folks. Uros Medic versus Puna Soriano, over 1.5. Cash it in before that line starts creeping even worse for you. Go make some money this weekend.
We said it, folks. I mean, there's only so many where you see it and you're like, bruh, you got to. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't even be mad if you guys wanted to throw in an official Bloody Water Podcast parlay and tie together Amanda Ribas, Mackenzie Dern over 4.5 with the Soriano Medic over 1.5 right there. Combine them together, you're going to get a nice pretty penny right there. So, folks, that was the bonus plays. But the fun is still continuing. Next up, we're talking about the most underrated but overappreciated segment of the program, the sleepers, baby, where the unknowns of today become the stars of tomorrow. There's multiple names that we talked about here that none of y'all knew about, but are getting closer to becoming a household name. We're going to cover a couple here today.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
60-second elevator pitch for why they need to watch this free fight on the prelims.
Early, starting us off early, folks. We're going Magomed Gadzhiasoliev, and if I butchered it, brother, sorry, but you know your boy tried, versus Bruno Lopez right here, folks. Fighting in the light heavyweight division, man. This one's very, very interesting because we have an undefeated fighter. I believe he has like 4 knockouts in Gadzhiasoliev, and then we're rocking with Bruno Lopez right here as well, man. 6 knockouts, 5 submissions. Man, these guys are very, very dangerous and have all the momentum going forward with them, especially in a big weight class. This one's going to be an absolute bash. Make sure you tune in.
It's going to be a fun one right there. And Gadzhiasoliev, man, y'all already knew about him, but this matchup right here, go watch the Contender Series fight back for Bruno Lopez. Go watch that back and tell me what you think about that one. But banger in store. All right, folks, women's MMA sleepers are officially back. That's how you know this is the Bloody Water Podcast in 2025. We're talking about Ernesta Kadichketa versus Nicole Cagliari right here. You got a Lithuanian former swimmer on the national swimming team, and then you got a actually, Cagliari, I don't know if she did anything incredible, but a Brazilian who's a fantastic finisher. This is the reason that this is a sleeper. When I looked at the numbers first, you look at Kadichketa, and she is 5'9", fighting at 125 pounds. Folks, this is one of those spots where you're playing a video game, and you create a fighter, and the perfect frame for a fighter, this is her right here. The only problem is, in her last fight against Diane Barboza. There we go. I think I got it right. Diane Barboza was the last fight. She lost in a interesting format, right? She was kind of getting beat up at first, ended up taking over the fight, but takedowns was the game plan. That's what was her kryptonite, right? Cagliari, that's the exact same game plan. She's 5'3" with a 62-inch reach. She is literally suffering a 9-inch reach disadvantage right here. She has no choice but to take the fight to the ground and try to finish her there. So this is an interesting matchup because you have size, length, frame, physicality versus somebody who's going to try to just go ahead and walk you down, walk through the punches. I can see a finish right here, but Kadichketa, to be fair, she is notoriously a decision fighter. The finishes come on the grappling side. So when you have two polar opposites, they're going to meet in the middle and something crazy is going to happen. And this is like the third fight of the night or something like that. So you guys need to tune in longer than 60 seconds. But the point is, women's MMA sleepers are back. Check it out, folks. That's what I got for you on that one. AJ, we've finally reached the point of the program where it's time to make a slight transition. But folks, before we transition, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the program, drop a like, subscribe. AJ, did you know this? You probably didn't, because I know we don't track stats all the time, but as of this recording, as of right now at this moment, we have over 3,500 subscribers on the Bloody Water Podcast. We are a mafia, we are a militia, we are an army, and we're only getting bigger, badder, and stronger. Also, if you didn't check out the interview that we just put out, you're going to see more of those come out this year. We interviewed Fury FC strawweight Andrea Piggy Amaro, 6-2, riding a 5-fight win streak. Go check it out, folks. All right, AJ, news and notes time, baby. Let's talk about it, man. I got a couple of stories right here. I'm going to go through a couple of the key points, and then really what I want to do is just let's talk about it, man. You know what I mean? Let's go through it line by line. First one. Recent one, because I know we just talked about Global Fight League and PFL and all of that, but this one is actually some good-ish news right here. Don Davis, the Dana White of PFL, he announces that elbows are now legal in all PFL bouts. Do you remember though, AJ, that one of the bigger talking points that Kayla Harrison had when she came to the UFC? She's like, I can't wait to show you how destructive I'm going to be because I can finally actually use elbows now. Do you remember that?
I do, Derick. And for a while, I forgot that there was no elbows in PFL. But yeah, I'm glad things are changing.
But let's talk about it, though, because if you think about the model of the PFL, it wasn't for a bad reason, right? So the question, is this the end of the fighter safety compromises in the PFL? They are embracing that major rule change, allowing this because I think they want to get on par and do the status quo with all of the other organizations. So they're not so much of an outlier, even though that was their whole thing, being a fighter-friendly promotion. Like we just talked about all of this. But since its inception in 2018, the PFL banned elbows during the regular season and playoff bouts to prevent cuts that could lead to disqualifying fights and suspensions. So, I mean, that makes sense, right? If you're super hyped up and you're like, I'm gonna go see so-and-so, like my favorite PFL fighter or whatever the case may be, and you buy your ticket and they fight, and for whatever reason they got a cut, and now they are kicked out of the tournament because they can't fight with you literally can't fight with the cut, right? First off, fans aren't happy. The tournament gets less viewers because you don't got that star power. The fighter isn't happy because they're not making the $1 million that they were trying to make for the playoff tournament. Listen, is this not the antithesis of everything that they've literally built their model on?
100%, Derick. It goes back on literally their ethos. Like, this is why you can have a tournament, because you're keeping fighter safety in mind, right? You're a fighter forward organization. So going back on it, it kind of seems like it seems like they're looking for a way to be able to get into some sort of beneficial market where they're going to make money, and violence is what we are here for. And I think that's why the PFL is doing it.
So the other thing too, right? You've been hearing a lot of this talk about like UFC going to snatch up some PFL fighters. They're not getting the fights, money issues, the whole entire nine. So I do think that this is really just a desperation play to say like, yo, we gotta bring some allure. We have to make it known that PFL is a real competitor to the UFC, because again, it's UFC. And then you don't even have like two, or you don't have a 1A, you just have like a 2B, right? Like there's such a void in between. So I thought it was pretty interesting. They did show that the final event of 2024, the one that was in our Riyadh, the championship event, they did allow elbows there. And I remember watching that, and I don't remember seeing a ton of elbows. Then again, you got to remember, just like when they did the new rule where you could like tripod and you could still like hit somebody in the head, now it's just like as long as the knee isn't down, then they're still technically like a standing fighter. You saw fighters who weren't taking advantage of it. You have to imagine though, it's so ingrained in your head of like, oh shit, I can't do that. So hopefully we'll see some more. But AJ, a couple quick questions here. Do you envision cuts from those elbows leading to less quality fights in 2025 in the PFL?
Yes. Yes and no, Derick. Yes, in the fact that, yeah, elbows cut you up dirty. And if somebody is raining on top of you, just elbow after elbow, yeah, you're most likely going to get busted up. No, in the sense that I don't see them being utilized to that effect, that like increasing just exponentially because a rule gets released, right? I think the PFL has it locked down to how they're going to fight. I don't see them telling everybody in the locker room, hey, go out there and elbow the shit out of him. Like I see it being still ingrained into the fighters to where they're gonna just be working the ones and twos and the kicks.
Another thing to bring onto there, man, because I was going to say this next question is really, it just completely erases their identity as a fighter first promotion. But the other news, I didn't make this a whole article, but I guess I should just drop it in. They did cut their prize winnings from, instead of being $1 million winner at the end of the tournament, it's now $500,000, which is like, yo, things are not trending in the right direction. So I think it is pretty clear. Fighter first promotion, doing things purely in the name of the fighter, having better revenue shares with the fighter, though that's not a long-term approach that they could stick to, right?
And not at all, unfortunately. I mean, as much as we want it to be, the world can't be perfect.
Yeah, fair. All right, a couple more quick ones. AJ, this is not fun, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it is something that we do need to discuss. Rampage Jackson and Rashad Evans, number 2, has been announced for the boxing ring. AJ, all that I need to say here is that these two originally fought back at UFC 114 in May 2010, right? And listen, Rashad Evans got a win against Rampage back in 2010, 15 years ago. Who said, you know what would be a fantastic rematch that nobody asked for? Oh yeah, let's go. Let's line it up. Watch these old dudes fight. Evans said it was one of the toughest, most satisfying wins of his career. You have everything to lose doing this. You have nothing to gain. There's no value in beating an old man who is not in a professional competition type shape here. What does this do for fight fans other than tarnish the great fond memories that they had of them when they fought in their primes?
I don't know, Derick, because I don't see any benefit to this fight at all besides each fighter is going to get paid. But like as far as the fans, they may be trying to get this really niche market of ex-UFC fighters who love the old school style of how UFC was done and try to bring them over into boxing because you have these people of your nostalgia that you're remembering going to be fighting. But that kind of defeats the whole purpose of why we're in MMA or why we like MMA. Like so I just don't see where the crossovers are going to be necessarily money crossovers with fans and everything like that. Like I'm happy for the fighters, kind of. Like I hope they're safe and I hope like the brains and everything are working because I'm sure I love Rampage Jackson, but what have we seen of him lately? Not the best looking. And then Rashad Evans, he's intelligent, smart, right? Doing commentary. Like why put that at jeopardy? Why put the win you had at jeopardy? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
You know what? This bummed me out so much. Let's move on. Let's move on, brother. I will say this last part. This is part of the reason I brought it up, because this is happening not in your joint right here, but this is Albuquerque, New Mexico, brother. So listen, sanctioned by your state, my friend. I'm just saying. All right, it's all right. We love a wild state. Let's get it. Last one. Featherweight contender Movsar Evloev. He vows to chase champion Ilia Topuria to middleweight if that's what it takes. Quote, I will go after him. What a spicy quote. Listen, man, the reason that I brought this up right here is because at the end of the day, man, he's kind of in a limbo spot right here. Volkanovski is going to try to get that rematch against Topuria. Topuria is like, I'll go around and retire, bro. Like, what are we doing? And I just think that at the end of the day, man, Evloev is in a weird spot because you're stalling his career. He could legitimately be champion if it was like an active division that just kept the fights going on. But the question ultimately becomes this, man. Is Ilia Topuria, has he done enough? Yes, he has had 2 fantastic, crazy, generational defying knockouts against Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, right? Beautiful. We named him to be what? Our fighter of the year. Like, he's checked the boxes, but has he done enough to warrant dudes who are legitimate, could be champions in their division saying, I will chase you. I don't care if you go up to heavyweight. I'm going to chase you and we're going to go and make it happen. Like, has he done enough? Is he that great to warrant people chasing after him that much?
Think so, Derick, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of heat for it, but I just don't see Ilia Topuria at the John Jones level, right? Or the, Alex Paeta level, where people are literally like, that is the guy, I want to beat him no matter what. Ilia, like, amazing fighter, but I think if he does, right, run through his division like the greats have in the past, that's when I think you get that acumen of being like the Anderson Silvas of the world, where you just go around, you're whooping everyone's ass. If he can go in and beat up the up-and-comers, beat up the Movsars, beat up the people that are in line, then I'm going to say, yeah, he's deserved it. But until then, I don't really see it.
He even said, even if he loses at lightweight to somebody, after that, I still want to beat this guy, right? It's like a personal vendetta. So interesting that Topuria is holding a lot of weight right now. But folks, that is your news and notes. That's your program. Folks, it feels great to be back. AJ, that's the program, yeah?
Feels great to be back, folks. Let's go make some money this weekend.